You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
I was looking at a chess game recently, and it honestly stopped me right in my tracks.
Not a human game, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, definitely not a human game. It was an engine game. And for years, we have operated under this assumption that for a computer to master a game like chess, it needs this massive reinforcement learning loop.
Right, like trial and error. Playing 40 million games against itself just to figure out the rules.
Spot on. That has always been the standard dogma, brute force experience. But the latest findings are suggesting we might be completely wrong.
Really?
Yeah, these new engines are figuring out the game in ways that do not look like learning at all. They are finding lines of play that are honestly just completely alien. It is not just better chess, it is a entirely different logic.
It is unsettling, is it not? We build these architectures thinking we know exactly how the machine thinks.
And then it starts behaving in ways that completely bypass our own logic.
It's like building a car and then watching it decide it does not actually need wheels to move anymore.
That is actually the perfect image for what we need to unpack in this session. Because that alien logic is not just staying inside the chessboard anymore, it is bleeding out into the real world.
It is a full-on collision.
It really is. We are seeing this friction point right now between this warp speed digital intelligence and the physical world of atoms desperately trying to catch up. And that is our mission for this chat. We are going to look at that exact collision.
There is a lot of ground to cover.
Heaps. We are talking about storing the sum of human history on glass for 10,000 years. We're talking about cars rolling off the line with literally no way for a human to drive them. And we are going to get into the suspocalypse, which sounds terrifying and frankly kind of is.
I reckon we should jump straight in then.
Let us do it. We have to start with the models. It feels like every week there is a new king of the hill. But this time, Anthropic seems to have actually changed the board with Claude Sonnet 4.6.
They absolutely have. And look, usually when a new model drops, we talk about benchmarks, math scores and reasoning tests.
Usual suspects.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the headline here is the capacity. We are looking at a 1 million token context window.
Okay, let us just pause there for a second. For you listening who might not be deep in the large language model trenches, 1 million tokens, sounds like a massive number, but what does that actually unlock? Why should we care?
Right, so think of the context window as the working memory of the model. Previously, if you wanted an AI to fix a bug in your software, you had to feed it tiny little snippets of code because it could not hold the whole program in its head.
It's like trying to edit a massive novel by only reading one paragraph at a time.
You lose the plot entirely.
Yeah.
But with 1 million tokens, you are not feeding it snippets anymore. You are dumping the entire code base in there.
The whole thing.
Yeah, the libraries, the documentation, all those messy legacy notes from 5 years ago, all of it. You're basically saying, here is the entire universe of my software. Now fix the problem.
That fundamentally changes the workflow, does it not? You stop being a prompter and you start being a supervisor.
That is the big shift. We are moving away from the era of the chatbot and stepping right into the era of the agent. And this is exactly where Google and their new release, Gemini 3.1 Pro, feels a little bit yesterday.
I noticed that. The reaction to Gemini was pretty muted.
Muted is probably being polite. Look, it's a fine model. It shows some improvements in complex problem solving, and it is available in AI Studio and Vertex AI, so it's good for enterprise use.
But the benchmark results are mostly just modest, right?
Exactly. It is an incremental step. And in a world where Anthropic is giving us an agent that can reason through massive architecture level complexity, well, incremental just feels like standing still.
But this agent future is not exactly all smooth sailing, is it? I saw this term floating around recently called the Mythical Agent Month.
Yes, the Mythical Agent Month.
Which I assume is a play on that old software engineering Bible, the Mythical Man Month.
You are spot on. So the old rule was that adding manpower to a late software project just makes it later.
Because of the communication overhead?
Right. Well, the new rule is that spending all day tweaking agent prompts to do your job actually makes you slower than if you just did the bloody job yourself in the first place.
Because you can fall into this trap of feeling super productive because you are managing the AI, but actually you are just wasting time.
Precisely. We still need engineers to maintain conceptual integrity and, frankly, to just say no to bad product ideas. The limiting factors now are ideas and architecture, not just typing speed. And there is a much deeper danger here, too, something we call cognitive debt.
This concept scared me a little bit when I was reading about it. Break this down for us.
Okay, so you know technical debt, right? That is when you write bad code quickly just to get a product out, knowing full well you will have to fix it later.
Yeah, classic startup move.
Exactly.
Well,
Cognitive debt is different. It is when you use an AI agent to generate a massive amount of code that actually works, but you have absolutely no idea how it works.
so you have essentially built a black box.
You have built a car with the hood welded completely shut. As long as it drives you look like a genius.
Yeah.
But the moment it breaks, you are completely stuffed. You did not write it. You do not know the logic. You cannot debug it.
So we are potentially building this entire digital infrastructure that is entirely unobservable.
If we are not careful, yes. Now, the counter argument, and it is a fair one, is that human developers write spaghetti code all the time that nobody else understands. The traditional code base already has heaps of debt.
True.
But the real danger with AI is the sheer speed at which we can generate this debt. You can create 1 million lines of unmaintainable code in a single afternoon. The best AI users are actually using these tools to avoid debt, not create more of it.
That is a terrifying scale. It really is about discipline then,
Yeah.
using the AI to document and simplify the code, not just churn it out.
Exactly. And speaking of discipline, or maybe a lack of it in business strategy, we really have to look at OpenAI right now.
Oh, yes. Peter Steinberger just joined them, right? The creator of OpenClaw.
He did. And OpenClaw itself is moving to a foundation, but him joining OpenAI is a massive signal.
Because OpenClaw is all about agent orchestration.
Right. It signals a major push by OpenAI to bring agents to absolutely everyone. It tells us they know the future is not a simple chatbot. It is an army of agents doing complex work for you. But there is a really big question mark hanging over OpenAI as a business right now.
You mean beyond just having the smartest people in the room?
Having smart people is not a moat. Despite having a massive user base, they lack real network effects. Right now, competitors have matched their tech, and honestly, they have much better distribution.
You are talking about Google and Meta.
Yeah, they have billions of daily active users built right in.
Yeah.
OpenAI is in this tough spot where their strategy seems to be simply hoping they can execute better than everyone else.
And as any business professor will quickly tell you, execution is an aspiration. It is not a strategy.
Especially not when you are fighting companies with practically infinite bank accounts.
Speaking of infinite bank accounts and massive companies, let us pivot a bit. We talked about the alien mind of the AI. Now let us talk about the body. Because while the software is getting smarter, the hardware is getting incredibly intimate.
Intimate is one word for it. Invasive might be a better one.
Apple is really accelerating their hardware push into wearables. We are hearing about smart glasses, obviously, but also a pendant you wear on your shirt. And camera-equipped AirPods.
The AirPods one just sounds so bizarre. Why on earth do you need a camera in your ear?
I was going to ask the same thing. Am I taking high-res photos of my own shoulder?
No, it is not for photography at all. It is for context. It is about giving Siri eyes.
Yeah.
Because these devices rely on visual context to help Siri actually be useful.
Oh, I see.
If the AI can see what you are looking at, it transforms from a basic voice assistant into a reality assistant. Say you were staring at a broken toaster. You do not have to say, Siri, how do I fix a Model X toaster? You just look straight at it and ask, how do I fix this?
Okay, that is genuinely useful. But it also means that these devices are just constantly scanning everything around you.
Which brings us perfectly to Meta. They are planning their first smartwatch codenamed Malibu 2.
Which will have health tracking and built-in Meta AI.
Yeah, it acts as an anchor for their ecosystem. But the real controversy, the one making everyone nervous, is a feature coming to the Ray-Ban smart glasses.
The name tag feature.
Yeah, this is straight out of dystopian sci-fi. It uses facial recognition to identify people you look at and then pulls up information about them right in front of your eyes.
I distinctly remember them saying they would never do this. Back in 2021, I think.
They did. They looked at the privacy implications back then and pulled back. They basically said, no, this is a privacy nightmare. But the feeling has shifted. We've become more desensitized to this stuff, so now it is actually happening.
But they are rolling it out softly, right?
Yeah, they're starting with a conference for the blind.
Which makes it incredibly hard to criticize. I mean, helping a visually impaired person know exactly who is in the room with them is objectively a wonderful thing.
It is a classic Trojan horse strategy.
Yeah.
You introduce the tech for a noble cause. But once that capability exists in the wild, it will not just stay in that niche. It will inevitably reach the general public.
And once it does, anonymity in public spaces is essentially dead. You walk down the street, and anyone with those glasses knows your name, your job, maybe even your social media profiles.
It fundamentally changes the social contract of just existing in a city.
It really does. It is full on. And while Meta watches us, Apple is making sure we are watching them. They are pushing really hard into video podcasts now to compete with YouTube and Spotify.
Yeah, they are adding picture-in-picture viewing and dynamic ad insertion. It is quite ironic considering we are having an audio conversation right now.
Yeah.
But it just shows how media consumption is shifting so heavily towards video, even on platforms that were traditionally just audio.
Well, until we get our own holograms, you are stuck with just our voices. But let us talk about moving bigger things than just data and video. Let us talk about moving actual atoms, specifically the Tesla Cybercab.
Ah, yes. The first purpose-built driverless vehicle is finally rolling off the line in Texas.
And the details are stark. It is a two-seater coupe, no steering wheel whatsoever, no pedals.
It is a definitive statement. There is literally no backup mode where the human takes over if things go wrong.
None at all. It is purely designed around the software.
And the production technique they are using is apparently extremely hard, so the rate will be agonizingly slow at first. But the stated goal is 5 million robotaxis a year.
5 million. That is not just a lot of cars. That is an absolute flood.
It completely changes the economics of transport. Think about it. If there are 5 million cheap robotaxis roaming your city, the cost of hailing a ride drops way below the cost of actually owning a car.
So private car ownership becomes a luxury hobby, kind of like owning a horse today.
Exactly. But there's a much darker side to this autonomous tech. We have to look up at the sky. SpaceX and xAI are currently competing for a massive Pentagon contract.
This is the autonomous drone swarms contract, right?
Yes, it is. And there is a glaring contradiction here. Elon Musk has argued very publicly for a ban on autonomous weapons. He warns about the Terminator scenario all the time.
Yet here, his companies are building voice-controlled swarm tech. That looks an awful lot like the prologue to that exact scenario.
It really does. Now, to be fair, OpenAI is also involved via partnership with a company called Applied Intuition. But their defense is that their role is strictly limited to converting voice commands. The AI does not have target authority.
So the human says target that facility, and the AI just figures out the flight path to get there.
That is the line they draw. The human stays in the loop for the actual trigger pull. But in the fog of war, that line gets very blurry very fast.
It is a massive slippery slope. Let us move to something slightly more optimistic, or at least scientifically mind-bending. Project Silica.
Ah, Microsoft. This is honestly my favorite story right now. We currently have a massive data storage crisis. Hard drives fail after 5 years. Magnetic tape degrades. We are generating way more data than we can reliably keep.
And the grand solution is glass.
Quartz glass, yes. They've developed this laser that writes data directly into the crystal structure of the glass. A small slab, the size of a drink coaster, can hold nearly 5 terabytes of data.
That is wild. And what is the lifespan on something like that?
10,000 years.
10,000.
Yeah, you can boil it, bake it, freeze it, microwave it. The data is physically etched into the stone, basically. It takes absolutely zero energy to preserve. Once it is written, it just sits there.
It is like we have gone full circle. We started out writing human history on stone tablets, and now the most advanced storage technology on Earth is a high-density stone tablet.
Exactly. It is the ultimate library for the future.
That is incredible. And speaking of manipulating the very building blocks of reality, we have a massive new update on CRISPR.
Yeah, this one comes from UC Berkeley. They have developed a souped-up version of the gene editing tool that now spreads like a virus.
Now, spreading like a virus is usually the part of the movie where the scientist locks the laboratory door and screams.
True. But in this context, it is actually brilliant. The biggest problem with gene therapy has always been delivery. How do you actually get the fix to enough cells in a target organ to make a difference?
Right.
Well, this new version creates a transporter that ships the CRISPR machinery to neighboring cells. It is like a delivery truck that pays its own roads as it goes. It makes the editing process 3 times more effective.
That could unlock treatments for diseases we always thought were completely untouchable.
Absolutely.
And to power all of this, the glass lasers, the drones, swarms, the massive AI data centers, we need energy.
We need infinite energy.
Yeah.
And helium is really heating up on that front.
Literally heating up. They hit a major milestone with their plasma reaching 150 million degrees Celsius in their Polaris reactor.
150 million. That is significantly hotter than the core of the sun.
It is full on. And they are aiming for 200 million. But here is the real kicker. They have a signed contract to sell fusion power to Microsoft, by 2028.
2028, that is literally just around the corner. I thought commercial fusion was the technology that is always 30 years away.
Not anymore, apparently. Helion seems to think they are right on the verge. And if they hit that date, the entire energy equation of the planet changes overnight. Energy becomes abundant and incredibly cheap.
Which is fascinating because there's also this brief note from neuroscience tying into all this AI development. The idea that our brains are essentially architectures of internal teachers.
Right, I saw that. Understanding how our own brains teach themselves could actually be the key to helping with AI alignment.
Exactly. It all connects, does it not? The brain, the code, the energy. Which really brings us to the big picture, the changing economy. Because when you fundamentally change how things are made and how they are powered, the money moves.
And right now, the money is looking a little bit nervous. We really need to talk about the sauce-apocalypse.
I absolutely love the name, but you will have to unpack the horror for us.
Okay, so for the last decade, private equity firms have been buying up software companies, right? Software as a service, or SaaS. And they used a strategy called a leveraged buyout.
Break that down simply.
Imagine buying a house, but you force the house to pay its own mortgage. The private equity firms borrowed massive amounts of money to buy these companies, and then they loaded that debt directly onto the software companies themselves.
So the startup now has to pay off the massive loan that was used to buy it in the first place.
Spot on. They built a $500 billion debt structure across the industry, and it was all based on the assumption that these software companies would just keep growing forever.
But now the music is stopping.
Exactly. Growth is slowing down, AI agents are disrupting the whole business model, and interest rates are way up, so the mortgage payments are skyrocketing, and the house is not making as much money.
And this is currently being heavily stress tested.
Big time. If those companies start defaulting, it is not just a tech story anymore. It is a massive credit event.
It hits the banks and the pension funds. We might see a lot of supposedly safe software bets just crumble under the weight of their own leverage.
It is a very sobering reminder that the tech world does not exist in a vacuum, but there is an even bigger shift happening underneath all of this, what we are calling the software industrial revolution.
I really like the analogy here. Think about clothing. Before the Industrial Revolution, a shirt was handmade. It was bespoke, it was expensive, and you probably only owned 2 of them.
Right.
Then the machines came along, and suddenly apparel was infinite and cheap. You go to the store and buy whatever you want.
And you are saying software is currently in the handmade phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right now, we pay software engineers huge salaries to hand-stitch custom code. But with these new coding agents we talked about earlier, we're entering a phase where software becomes bespoke, but manufactured in mass quantities.
You will not go out and buy generic accounting software anymore.
No. You will just have an AI agent build a custom workflow specifically for your little business in an afternoon for absolute pennies. We will stop building it by hand and start manufacturing it for every possible niche.
That is a massive economic shift. Speaking of which, we just saw Amazon officially dethrone Walmart as the world's biggest company by sales.
It took a decade of grinding, but the online model finally overtook the physical giant.
It really just underscores this whole transition, the physical world catching up to and being consumed by the digital world.
And when execution becomes free and infinite, like manufacturing that custom software, it raises a really provocative question about human agency.
This is the concept you mentioned earlier, right? The taste thesis.
Yes, the taste thesis. Think about it. If AI agents write all the code and robots build all the cars and Helion provides infinite cheap power, what is actually left for us, we kind of get demoted. We stop being the makers.
We become just patrons commissioning work.
Exactly. If an AI can generate 10,000 distinct variations of a video game or a car design or a film script, the only skill that truly matters anymore is the ability to look at all of them and say that one. That is the good one.
So taste becomes literally the only skill that matters.
Does human agency just become curation? Are we just tasters in an endless buffet of AI-generated content?
That is slightly existential. Knowing what is good might actually turn out to be much harder than making it in the first place.
It is definitely something to mull over.
I'm gonna need a minute to process that one.
Do not process it for too long, maybe. You will build up too much cognitive debt.
Right. Well, look, before you go off and have an existential crisis about whether your own taste is actually good enough, just remember to keep your eyes on the road, even if your brand new car does not actually have a steering wheel.
Check your cognitive debt before you log off.
Absolutely. That is all for this session. Catch you next time on The Vocal Technologist.
Spoken Tech, for your ears.